Hello, everybody. This is Ryan over High Carb Regenerator. Today I have Sally and Stephanie with me. You probably know them as the Trophy Twins, and I jump instead. I am going to put all their links down in the description section, so check them out. Go subscribe, follow, whatever it is on whatever platform. And I'm also we're going to talk about the Cellerciser today, so I'm going to link that as well. So let's get started. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I guess we'll get started with the Starch Solution because that's what most people watch my channel for. What led you to the Starch Solution initially?
Go ahead.
Okay, so when I was living in Hawaii, I was looking for, this was back in 2011, and I was looking for some sort of diet to lose weight, and I actually did stumble upon Freely, and I was like very impressed with her. And long story short, we tried the high fruit diet for 2013, 14, and 15. And because we kind of approached the high fruit, higher sugar diet too fast, we didn't really consider that it was a lifestyle, that it was, you know, it's a huge shift in what the average person is used to as far as what we are digesting. Like, we can digest starches and cooked foods, and then switching to a raw diet or a high fruit diet is a commitment that is a permanent commitment. And we didn't realize how much we were capable of committing. We were trying really hard to like drop weight and to be able to eat as much as we could, but the adaptation in our digestion and the long-term forever commitment, it was not sustainable for us. So long story short, we were trying to drop some of the weight that we had gained from the high fruit diet, and along came the McDougall program, which was the more realistic approach to a low fat, high carbohydrate diet. And we embraced it and kind of let go of the higher fruit diet in 2016. And within the first year, we dropped 25 pounds, but a lot of that weight had been gained from eating too many calories and too much fruit, and not really being able to increase fitness because our immune systems weren't strong. We were just not hormonally balanced.
We were weighed down with all of those calories.
Right. Just weighed down
our bodies.
Right. Yeah. Right. Not adapting. So the Starch Solution really, you know, we took on the Starch Solution in 2016. And from that point on, we've kind of been adjusting it and shifting it to our needs and helping ourselves to create the most sustainable long-term version of that diet. And it has taken quite a few years for us to do that. But we've finally come to terms with what it is that we love and what is working for us.
I didn't know that you went on the whole Freely Fruitarian thing. I mean, that must be pretty easy to do when you're in Hawaii, I'd imagine. Was it easier to do in Hawaii? But you know, I did live on, because you guys are on the West Coast. I lived on the West Coast. It's a little easier to find fruit out that way. So I guess kind of spoiled a little bit with that.
Even in Hawaii, the bananas still get too ripe. The bananas are still underripe. The fruit is rotten when you open it, or the fruit is underripe. No matter where you live, I don't care if you're in the fruit capital of the world, unless you're in the fruit capital of the world, which, you know, that's a rare place to be. Yeah. Fruit is fruit. Fruit is unsustainable in most circumstances. So even in Hawaii, it's still not, in my opinion, the most sustainable approach.
This is her opinion. We do differ a little bit on our view of fruit. And I think it's because my digestion handled fruit a little bit better than hers. And so I have a really lighthearted, open mind about fruit and how it can be sustainable, but it just, the way it needs to be approached is very specific person to person.
I think her digestion might be a little bit more sensitive to harder to digest food. So fruit is a little bit easier to digest for her. And I can kind of handle more like complex or harder to digest foods, if starch is included in that category, because starch can be very easy to digest as well. But yeah, she has aligned with fruit a little bit more. But overall, we are still focusing now on starches, and we've actually just recently incorporated a little bit more protein in our diet and just a bit more fat, but still keeping it moderate because we're aware of our starch or carbohydrate needs overall.
Did you guys go more towards the maximum weight loss, or did you actually do like, McDougall's always talking about the eat 90% starch and 10% whatever as the condiments? Did you do the maximum weight loss, or did you do the Starch Solution as it was?
Yeah, our first move was to listen to the McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss audiobook. And that was, I'm so glad you're saying 90% starch, because that was my favorite part of that whole audio book was, don't be hasty and don't go to 50-50. That's for a super hasty, super extreme situation, but more so what is more of a lifestyle and what's permanent and what's going to make you eat potentially less calories overall is to go higher in your starch percentage, 70-90. And so she and I, we were doing starches a lot in 2015-16, but it wasn't until 2020 that we went on the McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss diet. And we were really focused on eating simply, having raw lettuce with our potatoes, just honoring digestion. And we both lost 15 pounds in 15 weeks on that diet.
Wow.
Yes. 2016 was when we started Starch Solution. We lost 25 pounds that first year. And then we plateaued because we were still trying to incorporate more fruit, and our belief systems were a little bit wonky. And then in 2020, mid 2020, we did read the Maximum Weight Loss Program. We listened to the audiobook, and our way of adapting to that was we did eat a lot of potatoes and broccoli, but it helped us to add, we acknowledged hydration on a whole new level. We acknowledged that fruit was offering hydration where the starches weren't. So we were like, oh, we can ace the starch solution by incorporating not just more green and yellow vegetables, but increasing the zucchini, the cucumber, and the lettuce into our diet, and then having more hydrating fruits like grapes or berries. Not that one or the other is higher or lower in calories, but just higher in water content. And we were just gung-ho hydration when we did Maximum Weight Loss Program, and we lost 15 pounds in 15 weeks, right when we started the Maximum Weight Loss Program. And then again, we kind of just tapered off and maintained that weight loss for quite a while as we were incorporating more rebounding and more, more efficiency with that, which that's a whole new level of, body composition, because we were training a lot and shifting body composition. So whether the scale wasn't changing or whether it was or wasn't changing, our composition started to really change, and we got leaner and leaner.
And so where does rebounding fit into this, and how did you come across the Cellerciser? It was rebounding from the beginning? Because I know I started back in 2010, but I had a Bellicon.
Rebounding started when we started the Starch Solution in 2016. We found the Cellerciser because she had an ankle injury, and we needed to incorporate an exercise that we could do sustainably and potentially even heal an injury. And rebounding doesn't seem like the go-to exercise for healing an ankle, because you're jumping and running and doing whatever. But we had a little bit of experience with rebounding. Our dad used a rebounder back in the day, and our grandmother had used a rebounder. I had even played around with a very cheap rebounder in Hawaii for 6 months. But something came over us, and we felt like the rebounder was our only option in order to heal her ankle injury and to increase our fitness. So we did some research online. We came across a comparison video, and the video helped us to choose what rebounder would suit us best. It ended up being a video that had the Cellerciser included in the options, and the Cellerciser was the one that we chose, and we bought 2 instantly. And then that was 2016. That was probably part of the reason why we lost 25 pounds that first year. We started jumping, but we did notice
sit bouncing because of my ankle injury.
So she was only sit bouncing, literally not standing on the rebounder for the first 3 years.
Yeah, I did see that video.
Yeah.
And I think part of that video was, you said that you guys used to cycle and walk, but you really didn't lose all that much weight. But as soon as you added in, was that the Cellerciser at that time, or was that just any kind of rebounder?
Yes, it was the Cellerciser from the start. And I'm glad, I wanted to answer that for you. I don't think she touched on that. We were following cycling, the protocol for the high carb vegan diet was cycling basically. And we were following that the best that we could. But I'll be honest, like that style training just jacked up our appetite. And so we were so glad when we switched over to rebounding for the most part, but we were still dabbling in cycling because we were still believing that that was the superior way to train. But when we started building so much muscle on the rebounder, on the Cellerciser, our appetites were not so spiked. Like I was just thinking about this the other day. I used to get up in the middle of the night and eat like 3 bowls of cereal.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of the night. That's how fast my metabolism was. I wasn't even as lean as I am now. And my calories have dropped now, but now I feel like I eat a normal amount. Like it was really hard mentally for us to come down from 3,000 calories plus a day, because we were believing it needed to be maybe even 3,500 because of our weight. We were doing the math, 10 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight per whatever. And so we were like, oh, well, that means, because we were like around 170, we needed to be having X amount of calories. And so we were aiming for that amount of calories, and coming down from that down to a normal 2,000 to 3,000 range was so hard mentally, physically. And rebounding, we believe, was the only reason why we were able to do it quickly and successfully, because of how it aided in digestion and assimilation and helped us to change our focus from all of the high intensity cardio to muscle building. And you know, it was almost just magical to have this assistance with coming off of the 3,500
Right.
calories a day.
Another struggle we had with the high calories and the high intensity, like the focus with cycling, was to like at least improve the fitness once a week with a high, you know, with a really intensity training session.
Like a sprint, all out sprint,
so yeah,
right?
We now know that one of the things we need to do if we ever feel a little bit sick, it's like maybe we are behind in calories. So like in the past, when we were not only exercising and it was too high intensity, but we were really trying to fit in this really low calorie density, high fruit diet, our immune systems kept crashing.
Yeah,
so
I was not.
Our ability to
strong as
increase
I am now.
fitness was down in the gutter. And that's another reason why rebounding helped us not only to improve our immune system
And starches.
but to also start to increase the muscle density,
Yes.
increase the muscle tissue, the metabolic tissue in our bodies. So we could start naturally burning fat and improve our ability to digest starches. Because the more, maybe this is my theory, but the more muscle density, the more muscle tissue on the body, the stronger the digestion, the better we are capable of eating not just starches or heartier food, but like higher proteins, higher fats, even processed foods, and maintain our weight. If not, you know, keep a very lean weight, the more muscle we have on the body.
Now, speaking of which, were you guys ever gym goers? Did you go to the gym in any part of this, or
there was a hot minute back when we were 20. Yeah. But it was like expensive. And then we maybe had we had a personal trainer, you know, tell us this or that. And it was just no.
Okay. So where does I jump instead come in? Was that 2016, 2020? I mean, where did that come from?
2020.
2020?
Yeah, she was so motivated to start putting routines online, because she started. So we, like I said, we got our Rebounders in 2016. We dabbled with them through up until 2020, because we were still thinking we needed to be cycling. And then eventually 2020, she was like, F it, I'm doing all rebounding. And she was feeling so good from the start that she's like, I have to put routines on YouTube. So then she started doing that. And she was like, and then I was like, okay, you're looking so good. I need to do what you're doing. So I started jumping with her. And then she was like, I think we should start a business and we should put routines online and we should have our business. And I was like, I'm in, let's do this. So I Jump Instead was born in summer of 2020, and it's just been evolving ever since. And we're so happy to have that as our foundation, because now that we're going into the bodybuilding career, we know that having the foundation of I Jump Instead is the reason why we're able to be successful in bodybuilding. And so it's a huge support system for this future career that we're going into. We're so excited about.
Yeah, because you guys are jacked up. I mean, I can see, you know, your arms and everything just from
Yeah,
this.
and
Yeah.
legs and core and back.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is getting stronger. When we first found the Cellerciser, it came with a DVD, and we popped
Yeah.
that DVD in, and it's like super old school, like 80s style.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the guy that invented or he put together the quality of this rebounder, the durable spring system, the mat, the non-stretch mat, but the springs are so good. They just adapt to the weight, and they give us the exact amount of resistance that we need in order to increase muscle mass and just target that,
So we watched that
ideal
DVD.
resistance training. So we watched that DVD. He was so diced.
Oh yeah.
Dice.
Yeah, Dave.
We knew right then and there
This was
that
30
we
years
didn't have
ago.
that we didn't have to cycle in order to get diced.
He's not diced anymore. And that's just because he doesn't train as hard.
67
He's
years
so
old, and
lean or he's so
fit
trim.
and
Yeah.
But
trim.
it's not as diced as he used to be.
You know, I'll probably throw a picture of him up right now so everybody
I'll
can.
get you one.
Yeah, and actually, 1 second, I don't think it still has the DVD in, but this is actually the envelope that came with my Cellerciser back in 2014. I still have it around.
Get
Nice.
a DVD. It didn't come with a
She said he
DVD.
I think it was in there, but I don't know what happened to it. I've moved like 12
Oh.
times since I had the thing. So like things kind of just go by the wayside. But so what is your like optimal a day on the Cellerciser? Where would you tell somebody to get started with the
What a fantastic question, because a lot of us want to go gung ho right off the bat, but all we need to understand is that the rebounder is extremely potent, because that up and down motion is so potent inside what it's doing, flushing out the fluids and the lymphatic system. If toxins have been stagnant in the lymphatic system in the body for our whole lives, because we have not been vibrating, we have not been bouncing. So as soon as we start bouncing, all those toxins just start to shake up. The stiff joints, the stiff muscles are stiff. As soon as we start bouncing, they start to loosen up, which you would think is fantastic. But there is a detox period, and there is a strengthening period where you have to meaning you're going to notice that you're going to have weaknesses, you're going to have pains and aches that come up because these joints and these muscles are now getting agitated. The lymphatic system is agitating. So if we respect the Cellerciser and we understand how incredibly powerful and potent it is, we just need to start with what Dave Hall has always recommended, 2 minutes at a time throughout the day. And what we need to do is we need to look at that Cellerciser and we need to say, I'm ready for 2 minutes. And then, oh, I really want to get on and go for 2 minutes again. And it just needs to be coming from a place of excitement and joy, not from desperation or anything like that. And because it's a relationship that we're having where we are respecting it. And then 2 minutes leads to 3 minutes, leads to 5 minutes, couple times a day. And then 10 minutes a day is Dave Hall's claim to fame. But we believe that 10 minutes is good if you're really advanced. So really 5-10 minutes needs to lead to 20 minutes, needs to lead to 30 minutes, needs to lead to 45 minutes. This is what we did in our trophy body training programs. They start with 30 minutes, and 1.0, our trophy body training 1.0 is 30-minute routines, and then trophy body training 2.0 is 50-minute routines, because we want to take you to the next level and get all the extra weight off. So we add lots of sweating in the second half of trophy body training 2.0. And then 3.0, we bring it back down to 15 minutes. That's a strategy that we put in because we want you to get adapted with 30-minute routines. Then we want you to sweat off all the excess weight in 2.0. And then 3.0 is when we want you to say, you've put your work in, you've done your time. Now you need to just coast and you need to flex. And 3.0,
increase the intensity,
yes,
and
increase
reduce the time.
intensity, meaning flexing, because we don't want to always be focusing on the heart. We want to be focusing, because the heart gets taken care of no matter what. We want to be focusing on having a mind to muscle connection with our bodies. And so we know how to squeeze our biceps and triceps, because a lot of us don't even have access. Like, squeeze your deltoid right now. A lot of people will be like, I don't even know where the deltoid is or how to squeeze it. Squeeze your quad, squeeze your hand. You have to learn how to do that. And as soon as you do it a few times, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can feel it. I can feel it. that is when you know you're starting to lose body fat on those areas. And that's when you know that you're going to be lean and flexible for life, because you're finally connecting with yourself. That's the basis of good fitness right there.
Starting to jump on a Cellerciser is no different than adapting to a new diet, adapting to any sort of major lifestyle change. If you move countries, if you move, if you do anything that's completely wildly different, like a job, there's a mental adaptation, there's a physical adaptation. And if we can just acknowledge that we need to adapt, then we won't just cut off all other training and just be like, I'm 100% Cellerciser. We want to wean off of the other exercise we were doing, start to introduce jumping, and then long term, we could potentially be jumping. Then that's it.
If we want to wean off other sport, but sport's fun. We need to be doing sport for the fun of it. We need to be cycling for the fun of it.
But
Swimming,
we can just jump alone and just have an exceptional fitness. Long term. That's the goal.
I doubt you guys have heard of this guy, but there was a weightlifter, Mike Menzer, back in the day. Have either one of you heard of him? So he was really into lifting as little as possible to get the maximum muscle possible. I mean, everybody was on roids back in the day, so I mean, there was that aspect of. But he actually brought in a trampoline, and he found that if you bounce in between squat sets, that you increase the amount of weight that you can lift comparatively to not using it at all. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I mean, when you were talking about combining sports, but how do you know that you're at the level that you can move on to start moving into like 30-40 minutes? I mean, I assume that's part of your program. You kind of explain that.
Injuries don't show up. That's how you know when you get an injury. And it's it's a humbling experience to go through the journey of Cellercising, of rebounding, of jumping, because you will get little things. That is your body saying, okay, just take a step back. Then you have to test it again. You have to be driven to want to get to the end result, or to the end point where you can be maintaining for maybe 10 minutes a day and staying in fantastic shape. And so people have to just have that drive within them. Isn't that what you think? Like, they have to just know that they're going to get to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. And they're going to do a routine one day for maybe 20 minutes. And maybe at the 15-minute mark, their back starts to feel a little bit, they need to get off. They need to stop. They need to kick. And then 3 days later, they need to get back, and they need to see if they can get to the 15-minute mark. And then really it's testing. You test yourself to see if you can get to that 40-minute mark. But if you have any discomfort, you need to stop.
So like, for instance, if we reach for, something on a higher shelf, and that's normal movement. But if we are, say, lifting a heavy box and putting it up on a shelf, those are the type of circumstances where people will get a tweak in their back or a tweak in their shoulder or whatever, whether, lifting something off the ground or whatever. When we put a heavier resistance, we incorporate a heavier resistance element into the motion, the natural motion of our body. That's when people say, oops, I have this injury now. Well, jumping is adding weight. It's like we're holding something heavy and we're shifting it. And that's what jumping is. And so jumping, you're more likely, you're more likely to stress out the more tender joints and ligaments, because you wouldn't normally be in this position with a weight. You would just be, reaching or squatting or whatever. So the added resistance, it exposes weaknesses, but it also is putting resistance against muscles that you've never put resistance against. And so, we want to work out those weaknesses, but we want to just strengthen all the internal and smaller muscle groups. And then when we start to feel stronger and we don't have that pain and we feel good, we can just keep increasing the amount of time that we're on the rebounder. The mind or the body will tell you. The body will tell you.
Yeah, and I want to say this one last thing, because I know we're long-winded sometimes. What I've said before, and I wish it was like all over our website, and it really should be, is to start with just stretching. Just get on and breathe through your nose and just stretch. And we
bouncing.
have stretch routines on our YouTube channel. You just put I jump instead stretch, and you will find YouTube or videos workouts that will teach you all of the different stretches that there are to do. And then when you know them, you don't have to keep following the routine, even though it's really great to do, but you know how to do it. There's twisting and there's reaching over
while we're stretching.
Yeah. And
Incorporating the lightest amount of
if
weight.
somebody wants to go from 0 to 100 on the rebounder, lose all the weight and get in the best shape of their life, they will focus on turning their body into a rubber band before they start to really go hard with the flexing. When you're reaching down, you are putting, it's like a flex. It's a flex. It's like and well, of course you're bouncing. Isn't that like kind of like obvious, right? We're bouncing. When we're reaching down, we don't even realize we're stretching like crazy, but we're putting a flex against our muscles. So we just need to keep reaching up, reaching out, reaching every muscle that we can, and we're getting the job done. And then we can start to really squeeze once we feel really limber, like a rubber band.
A lot of people think that you got to jump as high as you possibly can on a rebounder. Do you think that is nonsense, or do you think you should be jumping like crazy on there?
Oh yeah, no, it's nonsense. Most of our workouts at this point are hardly coming off the mat.
I mean,
because
it's
we're
delicate.
realizing what is going on in this circular motion of up and down. And you don't need it to be a long up and down. You need it to just be constant. You need to be putting resistance against the cells. So the magic is right here.
Once that first strain comes along,
Yeah, you'll be like,
and you pull that first little muscle, you'll realize, why was I going harder? The goal though is to burn calories, to lose weight, right? To build muscle. But the more mind to muscle connection and like the flexing and the stretching that we can start to practice and get better at, progressive overload, okay, or progressive stretching, progressive flexing, the more we can dial in those skills and get better at them, that's going to be way more powerful than going hard and fast. And we just need to increase the resistance by a little bit.
Yeah, it shouldn't be called a trampoline. It should be called a resistance mat underneath your feet. You're on a resistance mat. You know what I mean?
A heavy duty resistance.
Yeah. You're respecting the resistance underneath you, just like if you're pushing a weight at the gym. You don't just, go hard, like
throw weights, especially in the first year of bodybuilding.
Yeah, you go slow.
You got to go
start
slow
with the 5 pounds and then you work your way up.
And I like the lightweight, the guy that was doing lightweight. Yeah, there was, I've heard of someone that did that too, where it was all about the slow motion and the mind to muscle connection. He was just as jacked as the rest of them, and he probably had better results because his muscles were more detailed and had a better shape
and didn't put as much strain on his nervous system and central nervous system.
Somebody's gonna ask this: does it really need to be the Cellerciser? Whenever I've done Cellerciser videos in the past, everybody's like, "Well, I got this, $39 thing at Walmart," and I'm like, I've actually had those explode on me, like literally, like there were springs everywhere. But I was 400 and some pounds at that time. And but what do you think? Does it have to be a Cellerciser?
We only have experience with one other rebounder, and it was a jump sport, and it has the bungees, and it was cool for the first month or so. And then my ankle went out one day, and I was like, it hasn't gone out yet on the Cellerciser. So 1 month in on the bungees, now we're trying to get rid of that bungee unit. Other people have had success that are in our I Jump Instead Facebook group. They've had success and shared their stories with us on other rebounders, but we don't have experience on other rebounders.
I do. I have experience on a
Except for
cheap rebounder.
Yeah.
And every 2 or 3 months I had to throw it away because the mat was dead.
How many
there
did
was
you
no
buy
bounce
in total?
Oh, I probably bought at least 2, if not 3. Yeah. But the mat just ends up being a dud. It's like, that's why if the mat itself stretches and the springs suck, then it's just a dud. You're not bouncing. And, if we compare to any other type of exercise equipment that is on the scale of a treadmill or an indoor, like a nice indoor bike, maybe even a Peloton, or an elliptical or a rower, or things that we could have in our house for cardio purposes, we're talking over $1,000 usually. And the rebounder is $640 for the bifold, 700 or 600 for the bifold, 740 for the trifold. And honestly, it's worth 1,000 more. It's worth 1,500, $2,000. It's
Physical therapy grade.
It's physical therapy, Olympic grade. It's so great. And it will not, the mat doesn't stretch. Like I said, it's a non-stretch mat, and the springs have a taper in them to adapt to all weights, even up to 400 pounds. They say 350, but it was tested under 450 pounds, and the mat will stay nice and tight, which offers the maximum, not the maximum. There is such a thing as a tight mat, tighter mat, where you're just like, okay, this is, it's jarring. So that this is just the perfect amount of resistance, and we have gotten amazing results.
And people in our Facebook
that's all we
have,
can say,
you know, have said the same thing and have shared their experiences on other rebounders. So that's a good question that comes into our Facebook group often, and the comments explode below, and it's all about all their experiences. If you want to get a cheapie and just like
give it a try, you know, at your own risk, because the pronation of the ankles or whatever, but like you might get a feel for, maybe you want to just kind of jog on it in between sets of weights, and that might be something you can try and incorporate. But ideally, if you're doing kind of your main jumping training, you want to have a real good quality